everybody, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to be talking to you about things that you should pay attention to when you get your book contract. Now, when you get your contract, keep in mind, you always want to read everything. And I would read it multiple times. Make sure you're very familiar with it. Make sure you're comfortable with it. If there are things you don't understand, ask the publishing house, ask other people to take a look at it for you. Get the advice and help that you need so that if and when you do sign on the dotted line, you are comfortable and you understand what you are signing. Always. Okay, make sure you're comfortable with what you're signing. So a lot of the things that are going to be in this contract are going to be like what you sort of agree on that final product. Okay, so things about word length or maybe page length. If there's permissions that you have to get, formatting, right? Like the deliverables, okay? What is it that you're expected to deliver to the publisher? And part of that is going to be the due date. Now, your due date can be negotiable. I mean, maybe it won't be, I don't know, but for most people, it often is. So for me, I actually negotiated, right, to add an extra month to my due date just because the due date that the publisher had picked, while it was very reasonable, it came at a time when I was going to have a lot of stuff going on, okay? And so I just asked for a little 1 month cushion. But that said, right, even if I had accepted that due date, if you have something come up, right, you have some kind of personal life emergency come up, right, something that's preventing you from making that due date, even after you've signed the contract, reach out to your editor, let them know ASAP so you can talk and renegotiate a due date. I think for the most part, in my experience, editors will be flexible with that. But what nobody likes is if you know you're not going to meet the due date and you just run and hide. Don't do that because that's not going to help. Editors typically don't like that. And nobody wants to have to come banging down your door to solve a problem after the fact, right? So be very proactive if you know that you can't make a due date. Now, the other thing that's going to be in your contract as far as deliverables go, and this is a piece of advice that somebody gave me in grad school, it's going to be about your index. So when I was in grad school, I had a professor say to me, hey, when the time comes that, you get a book contract, make sure you don't get stuck doing the index. And I was like, wow, I never even thought about that. I never even thought about how indexes come to be, right? It can't be from me. I don't know how to make an index. So make sure that you don't. And if it says that you do, then go back and talk to the publisher about it, because normally the publisher, and it's not going to be for free, will be able to provide this service for you at a cost, okay? And it may come out of your royalties. It may be that you have to pay them directly, but I don't think it's something that you kind of want to get stuck doing. So just read that contract, and if you can't find anything in the contract about the index, ask. I would ask before I sign. I'm very anti making an index. I don't have the time for that. I don't know how to do that. I don't want to do that. So if I couldn't find it in the contract, I would ask about it, just so that you can make sure you understand who's responsible for what there. Obviously, you're going to be talking about royalties in your contract, right? So you're going to have royalties for all the different ways that your material is going to be published, right? So paperback, hardback, you might have ebooks, right? You might have digital copies, and you might have other things as well, okay? So the publisher will list out all the ways that they're going to be, releasing your material, and they're going to be discussing the royalty rates associated with it. So you want to take a minute to do some research and make sure that your royalties fall in line with what is standard for academic publishing houses, okay? Now, one thing that I learned when I was doing my research around this recently for my current contract is that, somebody in an article that I was reading said, hey, if you're going to negotiate for more, maybe try with ebooks, because what, I found is that my royalty rates were very fair. So I didn't really feel the need to push back on them too much. But they said ebooks don't require any printing. They don't require any shipping, right? They don't require the same level of cost as a paperback or a hardback. So you could probably get away with asking a little bit more for royalties with an ebook. All right. So something to think about, right? Something to consider, right? But make sure you do your research and just get a sense of what's considered a fair rate at that time. The other thing that you'll find is that you will, the publisher may offer you free copies of books, okay? So with my first book, I got a hardback and I got a few paperback. I don't remember how many. I gave some away. And I really liked having that hardback. And so with my current book, I made sure that I was getting at least one free hardback because I like to have that in my library. It's just a really nice addition, all right? I like the paperbacks. Don't care as much about paperbacks as I do the hardback, right? I just want that one hardback, in my library. And then the other thing, I'm going to jump back to royalties for a minute. The other thing that you might find with royalties, and this is perfectly normal with an academic publishing house, is that the more copies of a book you sell, the higher your royalty rate goes, right? And if you go and pull up some research on this and sort of look into how academic publishers do royalty rates, you'll find that that's pretty standard. There is ultimately a cap. It's not like it just keeps going up and up and up forever and ever and ever if you keep selling copies of your book. But you will most likely see a clause that says, if you sell, this is how much royalties you're going to get for selling this many books. And then, if you sell this many books, your royalties are going to go up. And if you sell this many books, it's going to go up, right? Until eventually there's going to be a cap on it. So those are the main things, right, that you can expect to run up against, right, in a book contract. And those are sort of the things that you want to pay attention to, negotiate, and make sure that you're comfortable with, as well as any other details that are in that contract.